What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be talking about Beetlejuice. So let's get into that. Hi, my name is Leo, and guys, I talk about anything movie, TV show, video game related, or just anything nerdy. You have come to the right place. And like I said, today we're talking about Beetlejuice. Without further ado, let's get into the review. Now, I was fairly excited for this movie. Like I said in my previous review on the original Beetlejuice is not a movie that I tend to watch a lot as I was growing up, but I was still pretty excited for this movie, seeing Michael Keaton come back, seeing Winona Ryder come back, seeing some of the main cast just coming back in general for this project, and Tim Burton still being the director of this film. I was hoping that it was still going to be able to deliver some of the magic that the original one has, some of the comedies, just some of the implications that is going on that makes the original movie such a classic to a lot of people and such a fun movie as well. And while this movie still has its up and downs, I do think this was a fairly good follow-up to the original film. Alrighty, and now it is time for our favorite segment, or at least my favorite segment, and that is Popcorn Bucket Review. Alrighty, and in this segment of the Popcorn Bucket Review, we have the AMC's handbook of the recently deceased. I got the last one. It was bent a little bit, so that's kind of unfortunate, but it doesn't look too bad. It's not that big of a deal, but I do think this one was really fun. It definitely is a big staple to the movie, definitely a big kind of point that we see all throughout the movie. So you always like when you have popcorn buckets that relate directly to the movie or have some sort of significance to it. And it's just a standard kind of tin bucket. You know, you open it up, if I can open it up, and it's gold inside. You can throw your popcorn in there and stuff like that. A very, very simple concept, but I still do think that this looks really cool, and you can put it like on a bookshelf and it'll look really neat on the bookshelf there. So I do still really enjoy this one. I didn't really go out and try to get any of the other popcorn buckets that were out there. Like I said, Beetlejuice is not something that I grew up with, that I think I needed all the popcorn buckets that were available. I just got the one that I was able to get, and I do think this one is definitely worth it for sure. Now, starting out with my pros, going straight into it, I think Michael Keaton does an amazing job once again as Beetlejuice. Every time he's on screen, you absolutely love what's going on. He's hilarious, he's creepy. There's a bunch of things that this character does on screen that just makes you laugh and just enjoy what's going on. That's what gives this movie so much more charm, like the original one did. Just seeing Michael Keaton play this wacky, kooky character of Beetlejuice, being hilarious, being vulgar. It's just such a fun time in the theater, and especially when you have a packed theater like you do in this weekend with so many people coming to watch this film, and there's a lot of people laughing. People are enjoying the jokes and the comedy. People are enjoying just Beetlejuice in general. It makes it for a much more enjoyable experience when you're in the movie theaters watching this movie. And kind of like I said a little bit, I do think this is a pretty good follow-up to the original movie. It takes things to a different level where I wouldn't expect, and it definitely makes sense, you know, seeing these characters living their life, you know, 30, 40 years down the line, what their experiences are, what's kind of going on in their life, how everything has changed ever since the experiences that they've had in this house during the original Beetlejuice movie. You can see how those characters progress to where they are right now. And I do think it's an interesting follow-up, kind of getting like a legacy follow-up with all these different characters and just seeing their lives. So I think it's a good follow-up. It makes sense where the story is kind of heading. You know, obviously there's still some things in there that doesn't quite fit, but overall I think just in general as a 1-2 punch, this is definitely a really good follow-up to the original Beetlejuice. I also do like that we're exploring new ideas of the afterlife within this movie. You know, you have like the soul sucker or how to transfer souls and things like that. So there's a lot of new things that are going on, new ideas, new rules and functions of being dead. So I do like that we're exploring a little bit deeper into what the afterlife is in this universe and all the different rules and implications. You know, that handbook, it's filled with a bunch of pages. So overall, it's fun to still explore new ideas and continuously growing upon this universe as well. And overall, just like the first one, I think this is just a fun family movie. You know, this one definitely does lean a little bit more into the horror elements that I really enjoyed. This does have a little bit more like gory elements and very creepy stuff that Beetlejuice does in this movie. So I enjoyed that it kind of leans a little bit more into that horror. Again, another movie in the Beetlejuice universe that's very much an entry-level horror film for, you know, younger kids. You know, something that won't creep them out too much, won't scare them too much, but it still has enough of that element to kind of creep them into that genre as well. And then I do like the one implication of the fuck in this movie. Obviously, as being a PG-13, they're limited on what they could do. But the one time that they're allowed to use the F word, I think it was very effective, very hilarious. So again, I just like that it leaned a little bit more into that adult nature, especially with a lot of innuendos kind of in the beginning as well. So a lot more adult than the original one. I think the original one definitely fits a lot more for like a family movie. This one, again, just goes a little bit more into that adult kind of side of it, which I really enjoyed. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into my cons. And I have quite a few things here. One, I do think this movie takes quite a while to really get into the story and kind of really get going. Like I said, it does explore some new ideas of, you know, the afterlife and the death and stuff like that. But I do think it just goes a little too far. You know, it feels like you're over halfway through the movie before we even get introduced to Beetlejuice, or Beetlejuice is even doing anything significant to the plot. You know, this felt more like a Winona Ryder, Jenna Ortega movie than a Michael Keaton Beetlejuice movie. You know, so I love Beetlejuice on the screen. Every time he was there, it was the best moments of the movie, and they just didn't utilize him as much. You know, for a movie title that doubles down on the Beetlejuice name, you get about half of the screen time with Beetlejuice versus the original one. So, you know, they just really toned back how much they use Beetlejuice in this movie. And I think that definitely hurt it, because the beginning portion of the movie is very slow, very tedious. It's constantly trying to explore new ideas, and it just pushes back the Beetlejuice stuff. And then once you finally get introduced to Beetlejuice, they split them off and he goes off and doing his own thing. So you're not focusing on what he's doing. You're focusing on what all the other characters are doing. So again, I think it just takes a long time to get going. And once it does get going, it doesn't utilize the character of Beetlejuice, which is kind of the reason why a lot of us were there in the first place, enough to keep you kind of intrigued throughout the entire film. And then you have this whole side plot with Beetlejuice's ex-wife, the soul sucker, that's throughout the entire movie trying to find Beetlejuice. For what reason, we don't know. You know, you might think of some sort of revenge or whatever the case may be, but it just becomes this very useless plot point where every time it cuts to her, I really don't care, you know, what her motivations are, what her intentions are, what she's doing. I really don't care. And by the time you get towards the end and it reveals kind of what she was trying to achieve, or even just that final interaction between Beetlejuice and this ex-wife of his, it's very bland and quick, and feels like everything that we were kind of building up to just fell flat on his face. So I think that character, if you would have removed them completely from the movie, you don't even need to show them at all, the movie would have felt the exact same way. So I thought that was kind of a useless plot point to add into all the other things that we're already focusing on. And speaking of all the other things we're focusing on, this movie definitely tries to do a lot. There's a lot of different plot points. You have Jenna Ortega's story of her trying to, you know, see her dad and this new love interest and things like that. And then you have Winona Ryder trying to, you know, kind of get away from this guy and this whole marriage kind of thing and whatever. And then her implications with Beetlejuice. And then you have, I don't even remember her name, but the redhead and her kind of things that's going on in her life. So there's just so many things trying to intertwine with each other that it just feels like a cluttered movie overall. And then when you throw in the whole ex-wife thing of Beetlejuice, it just makes for a big jumble kind of mess. And then finally, I do think the ending was kind of weird. It kind of sets up a sequel, but not really. It just feels, it felt like a very cutthroat ending and didn't feel satisfying towards the end. But I mean, overall, I think this movie was fun. It was fine. I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it at all. I would still give this movie a positive review, but there is a lot of things that are missing. You know, this movie just doesn't feel like it had the same charm as the original film. There's something missing. I don't know what it is, but there is something missing to give it that charm, to give it that wow factor, where if I'm in the mood for Beetlejuice, I will 9 out of 10 times throw in the original one. That one is such a more enjoyable watch. It's more fun. This one definitely feels a little too slow, a little too jumbled. It just becomes a little messy when you look at the entire big picture. But overall, let me know what you guys thought about Beetlejuice in the comment section down below. I still had a pretty decent time with it. It is a fun movie. I know there's a lot of people out there that are loving it. I haven't heard too much bad things about it, but you know, we'll see as the weekend goes on. More and more people view it, the more that we start to hear different reviews, different, you know, points and things like that. But overall, I still had a good time with it. I definitely think a lot of people out there, especially Beetlejuice fans, will still have a pretty good time with it as well. But again, if you guys like talking about the movie, TV shows, or video game related, or just anything nerdy, you have come to the right place. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you.